Well, you don't see me up here very often. There's probably a reason for that, and I don't want to know what it is. But let's see. Barb, it's good to see you back from vacation. Where'd you go? Ooh. Did you camp? Oh. Barb takes these amazing vacations. Who plans these? Do you plan them? No? Well, one of you has to come up with the idea of where you're going to go. Okay, it just happens. Okay, well, it's apparently working. Kevin and Gary, you're the computer guys in the church, and where's Kevin? Okay, of course he did. Well, he missed his opportunity. Anyway, Gary, when do you think the first time a computer was ever used in history?
Isn't there evidences of ancient computers like during the Egyptians and things like that?
You're going to ruin this.
Okay, let me go. How about like the 1940s with
There you go. Okay.
during World War II, they tried to do.
So believe it or not,
figure
stop
enigma.
talking. So believe it or not, technically, Moses was the first man to download files from the cloud onto a tablet. Okay. It's probably the best thing I'm going to say today. Anyway. What, that it's the best thing I'm going to say today? Okay. Well, moving forward, I want to start out and make an illustration. And I'm going to volunteer Gary. You're so good up here, Gary. Gary, I want you to stand by the piano. Gary, you are going to represent Mother Earth. Who knew?
How am I going to do that?
Everybody in the congregation you're gonna put on your imagination caps, and Gary's gonna represent everything that we know about our planet. He's gonna not only be the planet, but he's gonna represent us and all that we know in our lives and what we experience here on Earth. It's a big task. Now, one additional thing you have to do is you've got to hold this, and see how that works? I worked hard to make this happen. Okay. I'm going to take this all the way across here. Okay. Ooh, it is getting heavy. There we go. This string represents the vastness and the endlessness of space, the universe, and also of eternity. Now, to make this more to scale, I'd really have to take this string all the way out in the parking lot, attach it to a rocket, and send it up into space. It'd go around the moon, it'd go all the way through the solar system, past all our planets, and out into interstellar space, and it would just keep going. That would represent eternity. Now, Gary, I want you to stick one finger out. Okay, that one finger, actually, it would even look better if you did it on the other. Thank you. That one bony finger represents all of recorded history of mankind. Now compare the length of that finger. Is this getting hard to do? I see, okay. Anyway, this gives you a comparison as to what history has been on this earth compared to eternity. I make this illustration because I want to know what you think of your concept of eternity is. And so anybody can speak up. Gary, I want you to reel in eternity for me. And then you can take your Mother Earth and sit down. That could take a while. Okay. Anybody, what do you think? Well, somebody's got to try. Come on. Yeah, just your concept of eternity. Yeah. That's really deep, honey. Okay. Frank, I know you must have some opinion. Oh, come on. All right. Amber? Okay. All right. Well, that visual illustration, why is it so hard for us earthlings to grasp eternity? Anybody? I mean, right. That's true. Well, for starters, everything that we know on this planet has a beginning and an end. I don't care if you're a plant or a fish, a bird, a worm, a human being. Everything that we know starts somewhere and then ends. It's the reality of the way life is as far as we know. It's all we know. It's really sad. Okay. Do you realize that turtles, a lot of species of turtles live longer than we do? Does that seem fair? Well, the Bible describes our lives kind of like this. Kind of like I have the wrong one. Hold on. Psalms 39, 4 and 5. Man is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow. Psalms 39 says, Lord, make me to know my end and what is the measure of my days, that I may know how frail I am. I think that's a significant statement there. Indeed, you have made my days as handbreadths, and my age is as nothing before you. Certainly every man at his best state is but a vapor. How long does a vapor last? Have you ever boiled water in a teapot? That water gets hot and the steam starts to come out through the little spout, and it's hot and it's got power. It comes out, it forms like a vapor cloud, and then how long does it take before it dissipates? Yeah, just seconds. Well, the Bible kind of describes our lives that way. Well, let me give you a couple more feel-good verses. In Job 13, it says, man decays like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten. Now, as I get older, and I'm probably one of the older guys in the room, this really I could relate to. Job 14 says, man who is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble. He comes forth like a flower and fades away. He flees like a shadow and does not continue. Have you ever planted flowers? This always has bothered me, but in the spring, when you plant these flowers, sometimes the most beautiful flowers that bloom only last a couple of weeks, and then that's it for the whole season. Again, our lives are like that. Why does God want to remind us of how short our lives are? Amen. That is so true. Does this change the way we think about our values? Anybody? I mean, if you really contemplate this, maybe we're not as important as we think. Maybe the universe doesn't revolve around us. It's kind of catchy. I need to have you do that at the right place so it emphasizes what I'm saying. Maybe the things we think that are important really are not. Money, how we look, our clothes, our success, popularity, and of course our stuff. You know, cars, motorcycles, boats, houses, big screen TVs, whatever it is. Toys. Thank you. I thought I needed to be more specific, but toys are different for everybody, right? I was just thinking that one of my favorite things to do is watch documentaries. Anybody here like documentaries? I love the historical ones, you know, where they go back 100, 120 years and they take film and photography from back then when it was at a very primitive state, and they digitize it and upgrade it, and they put the color in, and you're looking at people walking through New York City at the turn of the century or back in the late 1800s, and it looks like they just took this film a few days ago. It's like amazing. And as I'm watching these people, I'm thinking, they're all walking around with energy, with a purpose. They all have obligations. They all have accomplishments. They've got hopes and dreams. They've got family and friends. And it occurred to me then that they're all dead. Everybody I'm looking at in these videos and with all of that energy, they're no longer in existence and probably died, you know, many, many, many years ago. And so this begs the question, how long will we be remembered by others after we're gone? Do you ever think about that? What kind of an impact did we make when we were here? I think about my grandparents. My grandparents on my mom's side were very significant in my life. We used to go to Grandma's house every summer for a vacation. We'd go to her house for Christmas, and she lived on the East Coast. And my grandparents had done very well in life and were very productive people. They were loving and generous, and they would make our time there wonderful. So they meant a lot to me in my early life. And so, but most of my kids, they either came along later and they never really had a chance to get to know them. So anything they know about my grandparents, I've had to share with them. I've told them stories. Now, once I'm no longer around, I hope they will share those stories I've told them with their children. But let's face it, as time goes on, how many generations go beyond us and we're not remembered anymore? One or two, you know? So you're probably wondering, Jay, why are you talking about this? And you brought big black cloud into the sanctuary today, and it's just depressing. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. You better not. God doesn't leave us without hope. I kind of brought you to this place where it's sort of dark, but now I want you to see that there is hope. God tells us that eye has not heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him. God is telling us there is something beyond this life that he has for us, those of us who love him, that we can't even imagine. It's kind of like trying to figure out this illustration of eternity. In Romans 8:18, it says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Now think about the suffering on this planet. We kind of take it for granted. We certainly want to avoid it, but all of us at one point or another are going to suffer in some way. God is telling us it's not going to matter once we receive the blessing of eternity with him. It's going to be insignificant. Well, here's God's challenge. It's like we humans have been living in a dark cave. It's all we know. We've never been outside of that cave. The only light we have is from a candle or a little bit of fire to cook food. But we've never seen anything other than the walls of our cave. And then somebody comes out of nowhere and says, "Do you realize just outside of this cave there is an amazing, expansive world with blue skies and a bright sun, with shimmering water from lakes and streams and mountains and snow caps and just flowers and plants and animals." And you're just thinking, well, man, that sounds wonderful, but I can't even imagine what it is. I've never seen anything like that. Another example might be, have you ever been driving on the highway, on the freeway, and you see a little dog that got out into the road and they can't find a way to get out, you know? Cars are whizzing back and forth 70 miles an hour. Has anybody ever encountered that? No? Well, it's heartbreaking. And you know if that animal can't get out of that situation, it's probably not going to end up well. So you pull your car over and you're trying to desperately coax this animal to come to you so you can get it out of there. But the animal doesn't really know you, and the animal doesn't know what your intentions are. That animal is more afraid of you, even though you are there to save it, than it is of these 5,000-pound hunks of metal going 70 miles an hour back and forth. I believe this is God's dilemma as he tries to reach us. And he implores us in Deuteronomy. Oh, that's in the cave. Sorry, I missed that one. Deuteronomy 30:19, it says, "Oh, that you would choose life so that you and your descendants might live." God is offering us, he's pleading with us to accept something that we can't understand. It's beyond our grasp. It seems too good to be true. We're kind of like the dog on the road. But did you know that in the New Testament, well, actually in the entire Bible, in the New King James Version, the Bible mentions or refers to heaven 692 times. That's a lot of heavenly connection there. Unfortunately, the world doesn't tend to read the Bible very much, and so they come up with their own ideas of what the afterlife is, or if there even is one. This is, this is one that I find a lot of people think, there we are in our little white robe, or in this case, loincloth, and we got wings, and we're strumming our harps floating on a cloud. Does that look like that's how you want to spend eternity? I think it would be fun for a little while, but you'd have to be heavily medicated to make that work. So just for fun, let's look at what a few more verses in the Bible actually says about heaven. Revelation says, "And God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying. There shall be no more pain, for the former things have passed away." Can you imagine living in a world like this? Try to picture this. No garbage, nothing is rotting, there's no death or sorrow, there's no disappointments, there's no disease or even growing old. It's kind of mind-blowing. I can't imagine that. It's not the world I live in. In Isaiah, it says, "For behold, I create a new heaven or new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered or come to mind." What can we take away from this passage? What do you think? What about the not remembered part? Is he going to just erase our memories? I don't know that he's going to erase our memories, but special effects. I got to think where I was here. I'm not remembering what I'm doing is the problem. Have you ever, well, I'm sure if you've been alive on this planet, you've probably had an experience at some point in your life that was either really great or it was really bad. Either way, you tend to remember that event, right? Could be a wedding, could be a graduation, it could be you won some kind of a contest, or it could be on the flip side, it could be the loss of a loved one, a child, a divorce, a disease, something. Well, over time, and for those of us that are older, we can probably attest to this, over time, some of those events, especially the bad ones, they kind of lessen in their intensity. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I have. I went through a divorce many years ago, and it was not pleasant. And I just thought all the memories of that marriage and all the problems that we had, I thought that would scar me for life. And then I met Ruth. And 35 years later, I don't even think about that past experience because you've made me so happy, honey. I'm scoring points here. Anyway, can you imagine having millions of years to forget an event? What do you think that bony finger of recorded history, and how about just our own little short lives? When we look at eternity, how much of those bad experiences are we going to hold on to? Probably not any. And over time, they won't, it's as if they never happened. So let's explore another reason that makes heaven special, and I think maybe some of the more important reasons. Revelation 22:4. They shall see his face, and his name shall be on their foreheads. Let's think about that for a moment. Revelation 21, 1 through 3. Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Also there was no more sea. Then I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself will be with them and be their God. He will dwell with them. See, I think this is the beginning of understanding of what the real blessing is of heaven. It's being with Jesus, with the Father, and with the Holy Spirit, being with them for eternity. Imagine being face to face with the very God that you have been praying to, that was invisible. The mysterious and miraculous power of God all of a sudden sits physically in front of you. And he knows you intimately, and you're able to ask him questions that maybe you never got answers to before. Well, here's our challenge. Consider this. When you were a child, Frank, stay awake. When you were a child, Frank, what made Christmas exciting? Amen. Come on. What did most of us think about when we were kids, when it was Christmas time? Yeah. Maybe you thought of taking Jesus or thinking of Jesus and thanking him for being born so that we could be saved. But somehow all the trappings of Christmas, the commercialism and all the other events that were taking place sort of push that to the side. Maybe you look like this. That guy has the weirdest expression. I'm not quite sure. I wasn't sure I should put that picture in there. He looks a little strange. But anyway, this is what I thought about. Just to tell you a little story, I'll admit myself. We used to call my mom Mrs. Claus because she loved Christmas. And sometime around June, she would start buying gifts. And we knew, me and my brothers, we knew that if she bought any of the gifts that we had asked her for Christmas, she would have to hide them somewhere in the house. And of course, what are we going to do as kids? It was a challenge, and it was kind of fun to see if we could find them. So when my parents weren't around, I'd go around looking in all the potential hiding places in the house. Well, this one year, I was probably 11, 12 years old, I wanted a electric race car set, with the track and everything, and you could race these two cars around, and that was the big thing that year. And I looked, and finally, I went into my parents' bedroom, and in my dad's closet, underneath some stuff he'd hidden, there it was. Well, I couldn't leave it alone, so I had to open the box, and take it out and kind of play with it and just, have fun, and then put everything back and make sure they'd never know. The challenge was on Christmas morning, I had to act like I was surprised, But I think for many of us Christians, don't we do the same thing when it comes to the gifts that God promises us? We're focused on the glorious beauty of what the new earth and heaven's going to be like. this perfect environment. We think about living forever and not having to worry about being sick or not feeling good or getting old and watching our faces slide off and all that kind of stuff. Sin-free bodies. We don't ever have to worry about dragging this ball and chain around that we call our carnal nature. The dazzling experiences that will, I mean, can you imagine being able to travel in the universe and learning all these things that were mysteries when we were on planet Earth? I had a friend I used to work with one time that he thought heaven for him was going to be playing baseball every day for eternity. That was his thing. He loved baseball. So he thought that was the whole point of going to heaven, was to do whatever you like the most. Well, here's the takeaway from all this. We often fixate on the gifts rather than the gift giver himself. So let's take some time here and let's focus on the gift giver. Hebrews 2:11. For both he who sanctifies and those who are being sanctified are all of one. For which reason he is not ashamed to call them brethren. Brethren simply means brothers. Did you notice that he's not ashamed of us? As broken, as sinful as we are, he is not ashamed of us. He considers us to be part of his family. That's astounding. I can't imagine. Anyway. The clear word says, therefore, the Son who is holy and those who are made holy belong to the same family. And Christ is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters. God makes us holy, and then we become part of his family. I mean, he's doing the work in us that we can't do ourselves, and then he makes us part of his family. That's amazing to me. Okay, so what I think, part one of what I think the greatest gift is that it's all about family, being part of his family. So let's consider another blessing. James 2:23. Abraham believed God, and it was accounted to him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God. Proverbs 18:24, a man who wants to have friends must be friendly, but there is one friend who sticks closer than a brother. And in John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, for all things that I heard from my Father I make known to you. Think about that. A servant only comes when there's something that has to be done. A friend is welcome anytime. A servant is told what to do, and a servant will bring food to the table, but the friend gets to eat with the master, the friend. I think this is key. We're not only in the family of God as brothers and sisters to Jesus, but we're even his friends. You've heard the saying that we can't choose our family, but we can choose our friends. What makes a good friend? What makes a friend? I'm sure everybody in this room has a friend. And why are they your friend? Can you think of any qualities that would cause that? Okay. They can be honest with you. Okay. Sometimes that's not always nice, but yes. They're dependable, helpful. Yeah. What was it you said? Loving? Yeah, so you can share, you feel safe with them and you can be transparent. Yeah. They're comfortable to be around. You share common interests. Let's face it, you just plain enjoy being with them. Imagine that Jesus, our God and King, actually enjoys being with us. Jesus even gives us the inside scoop on what his Father has shared with him. You know, it's kind of like we're in the know. So this is the second part of what I call the great gift, the greatest gift. It's about friendship. Today's message wraps up with this thought, the third part of the great gift. 1 Peter 2:9, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his only special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. What do you think about that? Can you see yourself as a royal priest? If you have trouble seeing yourself as a royal priest, you're probably healthy and emotionally right, and because we understand that we're broken, and the idea that we could be a priest. Well, what an honor. I mean, what does it mean to be a priest? It means we represent God and we testify of his greatness. God's going to provide us with a special work to do. It's not like we're going to heaven just so that we can, I guess, be on permanent vacation. He's actually got a work for us to do. Well, the third part of the great gift is we are a royal priesthood. So, let's reflect on what we've learned so far. God will make a new heaven and earth lasting forever. 2, Jesus identifies with us. He understands us because he has been tempted just as we have. Hebrews 4:15 says, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. 3, despite our brokenness, Jesus is not ashamed of us. 4, all of our pain and suffering and disappointments will be forgotten. 5, Jesus has adopted us into his family and friendship. 6, he shares his Father's wisdom with us. 7, he calls us special. And 8, he proclaims us to be a royal priesthood. It's about being in the family of God. It's about being more than brothers and sisters, but friends. It's about having a special work representing the King and forever sharing our stories with the rest of the universe. You see, we've had a unique experience on planet Earth. And we've learned that all the rest of creation looks at planet Earth. We call that the great controversy, right? And we're going to be able to share from a unique perspective what God has done for us and in us and how he's blessed us. And we can share this with all the other beings in the universe. Talk about friends in high places. It doesn't get any better or higher than that. And this is why the gospel is called the good news. I've asked us to do a closing song today. It's not a new song. It's been around for quite a while, a number of years, but it is very worshipful and it focuses totally on Jesus. So if you will, let's all stand and sing our closing song.